Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this episode, let's talk about hull body frogs. And more specifically, what I wanted to get into today is the difference between a traditional walking style hull body frog and a poppin style hull body frog that has this concave mouth. Both of them can be used in a lot of the same situations, but really understanding the differences between these two baits and what they do very well is going to allow you to choose the right one to be even more effective on the water when you're fishing these baits. So I'm going to get into that real quick. But first off, I do want to remind everybody, I'm going to be fishing the Dick Hiley Bass Classic up in Minnesota, May 2nd through the 5th. That's when I'm going to be up there. And we are trying to raise as much money as possible for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, which is near and dear to my heart, obviously, because my daughter Riley is going there being treated for neuroblastoma cancer. But the Dick Hiley Bass Classic is all about raising money and awareness for St. Jude. Obviously, if it's for St. Jude, it's for these children with these life-threatening diseases. But anyways, we are trying to raise as much money as possible. And if you are interested in donating for this great cause, use the link in the description below to help us raise as much money as possible for this benefit tournament. So thank you guys in advance for that. All right, so let's get back to talking about hull body frogs. So the big difference between these two baits is obviously one has this concave mouth on it, or this concave nose that tends to push a lot more water. All right, and the walking style actually has a little bit more well, not a little bit, quite a bit more streamlined design where it's got that pointy nose, and that is very well suited for fishing in very thick cover. So let's talk about the walking style first. So obviously, because it's got this more streamlined nose on it, it's going to come through very, very thick vegetation very well. It's a superior choice in like matted vegetation situations, especially if you've got a lot of algae, because the algae or vegetation just isn't going to ball up on the front like it does with the poppin style frog. And so if you're fishing like heavy grass mats, thick, dense grass mats, the walking style is the one that you're going to want to use. Really, you're not going to see hardly anybody fishing a poppin style frog over a grass mat on like Gunnersville or something like that. It's going to be this style of bait. But it's also a really good bait for fishing around open cover or open water as well. You know, casting, skipping underneath overhanging trees, skipping underneath docks, all that stuff, it's going to work really good. But that's kind of territory where the poppin frog works as well. The biggest difference between the poppin frog and the walking frog in open water type scenarios, where you're not talking about bringing it over a dense grass mat, but more so you're just walking it in more open water, is the fact that the walking style frog is going to have more forward motion. It's not going to stay in the strike zone near as much, but in some situations you don't want a bait to stay in a strike zone too long. You want to keep it moving pretty quick, so those fish have to make a split-second decision to attack that bait or not. And so trying to cover a lot of water with a frog, and you're walking it back to the boat and just moving really, really fast, a walking frog is definitely going to be a really good choice. And I would say that a walking frog is probably gonna, if you had to choose one of the two, for all different types of situations, a walking frog can really cover all the bases that a poppin frog can. It's just that sometimes a poppin frog does a little bit better in some scenarios. And in those scenarios, that I really like to choose a poppin frog over a walking style frog design. I really like to use a poppin frog when I want the bait to stay in the strike zone longer. Okay, maybe I'm fishing like isolated clumps of reeds where I think the fish are spawning or something like that. That is like a prime type scenario to throw a poppin frog, because there's not as much forward motion. That concave mouth, aside from actually, you know, creating more commotion and spitting more water out in front of it, it keeps the bait from moving forward as much. So you can actually work it back and forth in kind of a walk the dog motion right above those fish for a long period of time. And that's why it is really well suited for you know, scenarios where the fish are not willing to go long distances to attack the bait, like during the spawn when really the strike zone is the size of their bed, or you know, around cold fronts or dirtier water, things like that. But again, it's not choose when you've got really thick vegetation. That's when you want to go to the walking frog pretty much 100% of the time. But if you're just spot casting to isolated pieces of cover, or skipping underneath docks, or you know, fishing for spawning fish, a poppin' frog is going to be a very good tool to catch those fish. So anyways, guys, I've kind of done this video in a couple different ways over the years, but really just wanted to brush up on this topic one more time, because I get a lot of people ask me what the difference is between a poppin' style hollow body frog and a walking style is. And so I think that there are some profound differences, but also, you know, sometimes where both of them will work equally well. So anyways, guys, that's my take on hollow body frogs. If you have any questions, drop a comment below. If you want me to do a video on a topic of your choosing in a future video, drop that topic below as well. And make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to this channel and the videos, because if you enjoy this content, those are all great ways to be able to support me and support this channel and keep me doing these videos. So thank you so much for watching. I'm going to see you out on the water. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and trust the process.